You're watching the Lemon Narrative with Sabreen podcast. I am Sabreen, your host. I am a writer and a storyteller. And in this podcast, I meet amazing people. You are the amazing people. And ask you the question, what would you tell me if I am writing a feature film about you? Today, I have a friend and someone I am so excited to have, Mitzi. I'll let her introduce herself. Hi.
Hi, everyone. Hi. It's so good to be here. I'm so excited to be on the Lemon Narrative because it reminds me of my days in the classroom and the idea of narratives and writing narratives and talking about stories. It's just been a part of my life for my whole life. And so it's beautiful. I am a lifelong teacher. I think even since I was a child, I've been a teacher in some ways and a lifelong student. In education and psychology and the arts all of my adult life. And I've spent the past 25 years as a college professor. And now I am sort of breaking out of that smaller classroom and into the bigger classroom of life with a podcast of my own called the Blessons Podcast. And also I have some educational content around life stories and learning about yourself through your life story. And that's me in a nutshell.
See, I told you I'm excited about this one because it's all about storytelling, teaching, the person you are, the podcast. I did not start yet listening because I wanted to have you. And I wanted this to be my first time listening to everything, right? To have like an actual genuine reaction and then go and listen. I didn't even so one of the ones I want to watch is Sons, but Sun is coming also to my podcast, so I'm like delaying it until like I have you and him. But I'll watch the other ones once like today is over. So I'm excited to have you. And the umbrella question here today is, what would you tell me if I'm writing a feature film about you? So this is what you said earlier. This is a narrative, and this is your narrative, right? And what I am aiming in this podcast, we will see people going through things, and we think, oh, we know, and we start narrating, like, you know what I mean? Like we see someone who's late to class since you're a professor, and we might think, they slept. And right, or they're careless, they're always late. We don't know the story behind why they're late. There could be an endless possibilities other than this person is careless or lazy, right? And you probably met lots of students, and you yourself, you'll be a student your whole life. Probably you have been through different narratives, and at some point you just were fed up and you wanted to tell your narrative. So I view people as characters all my life. I don't know if that's right, but I do. And everyone is interesting to me, and this is why this podcast is very important to me. So I will start with the umbrella question, which is I'm writing a feature film. My first question is, what would be an opening scene in your film?
An opening scene in my film would be me at my very best version of myself. It would be me. I always have this vision of myself. When I think of the best version of myself, I see myself walking, wearing a red flowing dress. And I'm living in a place that is very warm. There are palm trees around, and I'm walking by a beautiful outdoor pool area. And I have these little dogs that are my dogs that are running around with me, and my family is in the house nearby. And I have everything I've always wanted. I have a beautiful home filled with beautiful art and furniture that I love. My family is there. I have just love and abundance, and I'm just looking older, but still just me,
Serenity.
Yeah. Total fulfillment. That's the opening scene of my movie.
Are you in that stage yet?
No.
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 We're looking at a future scene. Yes. Not in your life right now, but you want to start from there, right?
Yes.
Great.
Yes. And I think that's a good starting point, to start from where you want to be. you know?
And usually I ask guests, do you want to start at the beginning when someone is just given birth to you, or at the end where you're there? So my question, why did you choose that as your starting scene? Is it because it's something you aspire to be? Is the end like what is the
Because
thought
I'm
about
all
this?
about potential right now in my
Mm,
life. I'm all about potential. I'm
mm,
at a brand new stage in my life. I'm in a total transition. My
mm,
whole life is changing
mm,
and has been changing for a few years because I'm in the stage where I'm on my own again. My kids are not living with me
mm,
and they're on their own. And I
mhm,
get to totally be who I want to be now.
mm.
And so I have to start building it. I have to almost start from kind of from scratch. I mean, I
Yes.
have a good foundation, but I'm starting in a new direction.
Mm, mm,
And so I have to start that journey step by step, stone by stone on the path. And I just see the end. Like I'm always just a visionary kind of person. I see things in my mind and then I make them happen. So that's what I want to do. I want to have that scene and then I'm just going to make my way to it.
I'm a visual person and a visualizing person too. And I remember in your Instagram, I saw you wearing a couple of red dresses. Is red your
Yes.
favorite color? It's mine. I just don't have the courage, not the courage. What do you call it? I'm not brave enough to wear full red, but it's one
Yeah.
of my out dreams in an outfit. Is that full red on? You know.
That's very funny because I have had that dress for a long time. I actually got it
Mm.
at Target. That dress was a Target dress and it looks so elegant though. It looks like a silk dress.
You have seen it.
And I know. And I wore it for the first time the other night.
Mm.
And I asked my partner to take some pictures of me as we were enjoying an evening out in a local town. And I just felt good. You know, those times when you just feel good, you feel like,
Mm.
all right, tonight's the night I'm putting on that dress.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that's the dress I'm wearing in my future picture, but that dress is red. And it's interesting you made that connection because I didn't really think of it. I definitely associated the red with confidence.
Mm.
And so maybe I'm doing that in my future as well, associating it with
Mm.
confidence, because I think that that's actually exactly what I'm stepping into right now is a sense of confidence, which
Mm.
is much more pronounced than any other time in my life. It's a new way of feeling confident because I only have myself to be responsible for right now.
That's yeah. When I saw that, I told you red is my. When I saw that thing, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so inspired by the way you move. I think there were stairs, right?
Yes,
And there were
there are
stairs and you were
stairs.
moving around, and I was like, oh god, I felt happy when I saw it. I felt your
Oh,
happiness, and it
oh
just
my God.
transferred to me. And I think I watched it twice or so. I don't know if I didn't have I didn't have the words. I just felt the happiness, and I loved it so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and it's funny, not funny, but whenever I do a meditation, usually the person, and those kind, I can't do a meditation with no one telling me what to do. I'm not at that stage yet. So it's
Mm.
always imagine yourself in a beach, blah blah blah, and then they tell you what to do, right? It's always a white dress, always a white dress. And white is not one of my favorite colors. I don't know why. I guess because I think one of the reason is in high school, when I was living in UAE, and we were supposed to wear either black or white scarves.
Hmm.
Scarves were not mandatory. I'm not gonna lie, but I loved wearing it. It was before I commit to the hijab, but I loved wearing hijabs, right? So I chose white, and like for a couple of years, I was wearing white scarf every day, every day, every day, to the point that I just did not want to wear white anymore. Like it's become one of the colors that I don't want to like. So in meditation, when they say white, I was like, oh, here we go again. Can I imagine another color? Why is it white? And I honestly don't have an answer for it, but I know next time I'm going to imagine red.
Yes, I love that. Maybe you should record in your own voice yourself
That's a good idea.
talking about wearing a red dress.
Talking about like just the scene you said.
Yes.
Maybe should be my meditation, talking about that scene
Yes.
where you feel happy, you're wearing the dress, your hair is
Yes.
out, all these things.
Right. And
I
what are
love
you
it.
doing? Or how are you moving?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
where are you? Who's around you? Are you alone? I love visualizing those things.
Me too.
That's what I just did this exercise with some friends in a group that I'm leading right now. And it
Mm,
was called the alter ego exercise.
mm,
So you think about who your ideal alter ego is. Maybe these are qualities that you would love to embody or that you're working on,
mm,
or, who are you at your best? So
mm,
that's the vision that I opened my movie with, was kind
mm.
of an alter ego kind of person.
Okay. Since we started with alter ego, let's go to the opposite,
Okay.
right?
What's that? The shadow?
The shadow, or with a time where you were not that person, a
Mm.
time where you were your worst um, self.
Mm.
And now when you look back at it, it was your worst self, but there was ways. It wasn't what you thought it was. Does that make sense? Can you think of a scene like that?
Oh, definitely. Well, I think for me, that would be the few years following when I lost my mom, when my mom died. And I was in my early 30s, and I had 3 little kids under 5, and she left. It was at the time when I really needed her. And I went through a very difficult period. I mean, for many years. We think of grief as something we go through and then we kind of get through it quickly, I guess, but we don't, it takes years and years to get through something like that. And so I would say that period was difficult because it led me to question a lot of my relationships, including my marriage at the time.
Mm,
Probably contributed to some depression I was experiencing, and ultimately wanting to be on my own and not be
mm.
married anymore. And that was, there were other contributing factors, yes, but that was definitely a low point.
How did you get out of that low point? Because you said grief. And I have experienced grief in many,
Mm-hmm.
many things in life, not just losing someone, but I've experienced it in
Mm-hmm.
my chronic illness,
Mm.
and one of the things that I still cannot process. I mean, I'm processing, but not as good as I want it to be, is the loss of my grandmother, because she raised me. And because when I left back home, she was still alive, and she passed away a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And I still could not process that if I went back home, she's not there, because I didn't go back. And now there's no way to go back because there's war, right? And in my head, she's still there. I kid you not, sometimes I think about her, then I remember she passed away. So I don't think, and then, I have this, I go over it again. Like I am, upset again. I feel the crying again. I feel like, oh my gosh, And then I start praying for her to overcome, because, I'm a religious person. That's the way I overcome things.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you process that to
Well, I'm still processing it, to tell you the truth. I'm
Mm,
realizing things every day. I always say I have a mother wound. I think there's a
mm,
lot for me around that idea of mother, and
mm,
myself as a mother, my own mother, my relationship with her, and her relationship with her mother.
mm,
And my mother was an orphan. She didn't have a long relationship with her own mother. And I
mm,
think even the relationship they had was troubled
mm,
by other things because her mother was troubled. And
mm,
so, I got out of it by getting in touch with myself, and I had to do that. It was a stage of my life where, and that's why I give myself a lot of grace. I think we're all doing the best that we can
mm,
in every moment under our circumstances. And I was doing the best that I could, and I didn't realize that I was grieving. I didn't know. I didn't even cry at my mother's funeral. I didn't cry until later.
Mm.
And I remember times when I wanted to pick up the phone and then realized that I couldn't call her, or went
Anymore.
to some, went to some event and thought, oh, she would love this,
Mm.
and that happened many times. It still happens.
Mm.
But the way that I get through it is by doing the inner work. I mean, meditation is my biggest tool, my
Mm.
absolute biggest tool that I use. And that's how I get in touch with myself. I think you have to tap into your inner self, whether you do that through prayer or meditation or religion or connection to, because your connection to the heart, to the inner self, is your connection to God or source.
Mm.
That's the source. So whatever you
Yes.
want to call it, that's how I did it. But sometimes you have to be alone to do that,
Mm.
and
Most of the
that's,
times.
yeah,
Most
that's
of the
kind of how
times
it
you
was
need
for
to be
me.
alone. Yeah. I actually love being alone.
I do too.
Yeah, I love being alone, and I didn't realize that till. And there's a difference between being alone and lonely, by the way.
Oh,
Like,
right.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
you could be lonely. Like nowadays, because I had a period where I wasn't around my friends and I don't have friends around. I feel like lonely. I want to go out and have, like, um, brunch with my friends, stuff like that. But
Right.
that doesn't mean I don't enjoy being alone.
Right.
And I love how I get in touch. I love what you said about that. Oh yeah, I love revising scenes. So I, in my imagination, according, like, later this might change. You at your highest point, the first opening scene, and then we go to you at your lowest point.
Okay.
And I want to touch on that, your relationship with your mother, and then your profession as a teacher.
Yes.
I feel like this is related, you know?
Hmm.
How did you decide to be a teacher? Like, how did you come into that? You said you were a professor. Um, you were teaching what?
Yes. For the past 25 years or so, I've been a professor. And before that, I was a teacher in elementary school
Mm.
classrooms. That's where I started teaching. And I just always wanted to be a teacher. From the time I was a child, I would
Mm.
play school. I had students. I would make a list of my students and their names. I had lessons. I loved those workbooks you would buy in the
Mm.
drugstore, where you just fill in the words and things in the workbooks.
Yeah.
And I loved that. So I have always just known that I was a teacher. I think that's my calling, actually. I think that's my job, is to be an educator. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm doing it in a much different way,
Mm.
because I want to be able to reach more people. I feel like the classroom is very confined,
Mm-hmm.
and the subject matter, is specific inside of a traditional classroom. So I want to be able to just, make an impact on people's lives in a positive way, in a big way.
Mm. She just always wanted to be. It's interesting because, you know what? I've always, when in an elementary school, I think my first grade, because I didn't do kindergarten, but my first grade, I had a teacher that I loved her so much, and she had to be transferred because it was a public school, so I think they put teachers into where to go, and
Mm,
she lived in the city next to my city, so it wasn't fair for her to commute every day,
okay.
and that was in the 90s too. So it was a
Mm,
huge thing, right? So what happened was, she was supposed to transfer, and I remember coming home crying like hell because she's
oh,
leaving, and she was like
oh,
my,
yeah.
I even you like in first and second grade, we called our teacher's mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we say mama, and then we say her name, right? I think
Oh,
for it goes away in third or fourth, but
okay.
as girls we always call, and because in Sudan it's like you have the homeroom teacher, right?
Yes.
So in first grade and second grade, I think it's here too. Are you located in Canada? I'm sorry, where are you
No,
located?
I'm in the United States.
United States.
I'm in Pennsylvania, in the
Okay,
United States.
okay.
Yeah.
Because you said same Eastern. I always forget to ask where people
I
are
know. I wasn't
located.
sure where you were either. I didn't know you were I thought maybe you were in I thought maybe you were in a different country that was far away because of
Yeah.
the time that we're doing this. So I wasn't sure.
Oh no, I am in Toronto,
Okay, I
Canada.
figured that you were in Canada. Then I
Yes.
figured that out.
Yeah, you figured it out. You know what I always tell myself before I start the podcast, Sabreen, ask your guests, where are they located? Just for people
Oh,
to know too, like
right.
a
Yeah, no,
cultural reference. Yeah, it's
I know,
important.
because we have no idea. I don't know.
Forget. So, back in, I'm from Sudan, and this happened in Sudan, right? So, usually the teacher, and I think it's here too, in first grade would be the teacher for all subjects,
Right.
and
Yeah.
in
In
second,
first grade, it would.
yeah,
I'm gonna
pick up
just
the
gonna get my
yeah.
friend to come and join us for the.
Hi. So this
This
is
is
my
Honey.
honey, our second guest.
She's getting into trouble, so I have to pick
Yeah.
her up.
Okay. So we used to call the teacher Mama, and then her name. So if
Okay.
you were in our first grade, we say Mama Mitzi. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
she has, and also like I was raised by my grandmother, but my mom was working and my dad was working all the time. So we all felt like she's our mom because we go and we spend the whole day with her.
Yeah.
And then to second grade too. And I
Yeah.
think by third grade we would have a different teacher for math or something. And then fourth grade things change, but we would have the homeroom teacher for most subjects. So that's why I felt like being a mother and your relationship as a mother has to do with teaching. And when you look at teaching, teaching requires so much patience when you're teaching children, and understanding and guidance. Those are all things that are related to moms.
They are. You're really making me think, because I think you're onto something. I'm going to think on this a lot tonight, because that is so true.
Yeah.
There is, because I was thinking about, for me, what a mother means. And I think that at this point in my life, being a mother means being like a steward, like kind of a steward for the world, or into the world, a conduit kind of thing, which is how I think of myself when I think of myself as a teacher, because I don't think that effective teachers just, give you knowledge. They don't just, it's not like a product they're handing off to you. It's a facilitation for you to be able to learn through the way that they are presenting things, or through the doors that they are opening.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, when I did teach young children, it was very common for them to slip up and call me mom, because you are doing everything for them. You're tying their shoes and buttoning their coats and helping them with their lunches, and all
they
that.
hug you, and
they hug you.
the
They need you to.
relationships
I know they need that.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
the relationship
it's
is very
really
intimate.
yeah.
It's very intimate.
That's so true.
You know what made me think of that? I work as a therapist for autistic children, and I have the relationship gets so strong with the child, and to the point, one of the kids I'm working with, my kids are nonverbal. So see what I say my kids.
Yes.
I don't even
know. And I would say that too.
I'm
even when I taught college, I called them kids.
Exactly. And you say my kids in class, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes they don't say anything. They don't point at anything. We just lock eyes, and you'll understand what that kid wants, what that kid is going to do, right? And I was working with one of the kids in it was a new environment where other kids were there. And then one of the kids came to me and she said, "Are you his mom?" And I said, "No." And then another kid came and asked me, "Are you his aunt?" And I said, "No." Right? And then one of the kids, and I have had a whole meeting with them telling them I am his therapist, right? And one of the kids said, by the end of the thing, he said, "Oh, your son's bottle of water." And I was like, "Thank you for reminding me about my son's bottle of water." And I don't mind being the mom, of course. I'm just not the actual mom. I don't rob someone's from their child or something. Like, even if it's like for I'm just trying to be professional. But I realized that teaching touches your life, especially elementary, and it touches your life. If you look back at your elementary, education and even college education, don't you think of teachers the most? What a teacher told you?
Yes. And I have a lot of stories about very good experiences with teachers and some bad
Yes.
experiences with
Yes.
teachers. They've taught me what to do and what not to do
Mhm.
in life.
Exactly.
I have a lot of
And
those
it's
stories.
teaching too. And in teaching
Yep.
too, and I think my first the teaser was about a teacher. That's how teachers affect us. They
They do.
do. Yeah, and I remember telling someone that I didn't believe I'm a writer. One of the teachers said, "Sabreen, you're a writer," and that was in grade 4.
Oh.
She was telling this to me from grade 4 to 6, and I was refusing it, and I let it go. Um, she passed away. May her soul rest in peace. But
Hmm.
she was right.
Yeah. She could see it. Teachers, I think, see things in children because they aren't their parents.
Mm,
Sometimes parents are too close to be able to see what's really there authentically. And parents oftentimes want their children to be something in their own vision,
reflection. Yeah,
right? Instead of for them to become their own person,
yeah. And
It's
you
very
see the own
interesting.
person each child has
That's right. As a teacher,
as a
you do.
teacher. I
Yeah.
think I think that's sometimes is one of the differences between a teacher and a mother, right? Because the mother is too
Yes.
close. But there's some
Hmm.
good mothers out there who
Oh,
see
yeah.
the child for who they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, with teaching, it's such. I just feel those things are related in life.
I think you're right.
I don't see. I don't know if you see the relationship.
I do
I see
now.
you see it
I
now.
didn't see it before, but now I do. I see that is true.
Okay, we talked about the
Mm,
teacher. Let's talk
love
about
it.
the mother.
Okay.
How you said your relationship with your mom. I want to like dive into more
Mm,
into that. Tell me about
okay.
that relationship since childhood. Who were I want to know about you, the child, the daughter, the relationship with the mother.
Okay. Uh, yeah, I'm the oldest. I have one sister and she's younger.
Mm-hmm.
So I was always the I don't know, the type A child, always doing, always creating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very creative. My mother was very creative. She used to make things, all sorts of things. I remember her making jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
things like that when I was little. And she did paintings. She made clothing. She made a lot of my clothing. She was an excellent seamstress. She knitted. She crocheted. She did everything. So I definitely got that from her. And my sister did not pick up those creative habits, which is very interesting because we both had the same mom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's interesting. I really was very close to my mom my whole life. I definitely had some headbutting with her when I was a teenager. I was very independent, always wanting to do what I wanted to do. And my parents were actually very allowing of that. They didn't really put a lot of rules on me when I was a teenager. I did, some, but I don't know. I don't think I got into as much trouble as some kids do these days. Maybe that's and the old person in me to talking. I don't know.
It's
But
also the oldest daughter kind of like syndrome. I call it syndrome. The oldest
yeah,
daughter is always they know what they're doing.
it's
Even
like
when
the
they get in
overachiever.
yeah,
Yeah.
even when they get in trouble, they know how to get out of it
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
without help.
I could do anything. And I
Yeah.
was but I never really got into any big trouble. I
Yeah,
mean
I know.
a couple of times just small things, but
Mm,
nothing big, nothing major. I
mm,
was the responsible one. I was the one uh, that was capable, and they kind of trusted me. Not that
mm,
they didn't with my sister. It just was I just established myself as
mm. Trusting one. No,
the oldest sibling.
I can relate. I can relate to that because I'm the oldest sibling and daughter. So it actually annoyed me in some sense
Okay.
because I see I think I for me it was like can I not just make a mistake and be forgiven for it, right? Because if anything didn't go, especially with my father, he's like, you know, it was something minor. It's like, how I expect you to do that? And I'm like, at the end of the day, you're the father, I'm the child.
Yeah.
Right? I need to be allowed to experience some things, right? And
Right.
as you said, it wasn't something major. It was like staying up late to watch TV.
Yeah.
Some
That's
silly stuff
funny.
like that.
Well, my parents were very, they did allow me to make mistakes, and I did make mistakes. And they were very forgiving. I just remembered a story. I remembered I had traveled to see a boyfriend of mine when I was young. I mean, very young, and they let me go.
Okay.
I was probably 18 or 19. And so he lived in another state, like far away, like it was like a 4-hour flight. And I went there, and it was the last day of my trip, and my parents called, and they were like, well, where are you? And I'm going, what do you mean? Where am I? I'm going to be home tomorrow. They're going, no, your flight is today. You're not here. We're here to pick you up at the airport, and you're not here. And they go, is there something you want to tell us? Like, they thought that I was running away with this guy. And I was not. But they were very calm. I will never forget, on the phone, my father was very calm. He was like, is there anything you want to tell us? Yeah. And I'm thinking, no. And then he was mad. Then after that, he was mad. Then he was like, okay, we have to figure out a new flight, and now we have to come back and pick you up again. And he was very mad.
Yeah, of course.
Because the airport is not close to where my parents live. It's a 2-hour ride. But he was
relieved too.
He was relieved, but then he was mad. Yes.
It's like
he was relieved, and then he remembered he was supposed to be mad.
Because there's a bigger problem. Then he realized the problem was not as big, but it's still like some expenses associated with it.
That's right.
He's
exactly.
Like, oh, girl. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a funny thing.
Yes. It was very funny.
I love it.
And then the guy was kind of like, no way, she's not staying. Not that he didn't like me there. It was just like, he didn't want me there forever.
No.
And I didn't want to be there forever.
You two were wise. You two were wise. Yeah, you two were wise. Like 19, not a good idea.
That's right.
Yeah. So, we play this. Your highest point and then your lowest point. And I feel like from that, you'll be starting remembering your childhood as the oldest daughter, your mother's. I have a question. Did your mother's house smell a certain way?
Yeah, sure. I think when I associate smells from my childhood, it's funny. The smell of yarn and wool comes back to me. That's weird, because I never thought of that before. That's just happening to me now. Yeah, the smell of like yarn and wool, because that was
she knit.
Big. She knitted, and there was a lot of yarn and different like fabrics and textures in the house. And I remember, she was also a very good baker. So sugar, cinnamon, things like that, smells like that were always very common in the house.
Because I asked you that, I expected the baking, but I forgot about the knitting. But that's a great combination of smells, for me at least. I asked that because, again, I visualize everything I write. It's you at that amazing moment, because you at your lowest moment, you want to be that Mitzi with the red dress and everyone you love around you,
Right.
And it's how you get out of your lowest point. I know that from experience is you see that you see yourself there, and you try to manifest it in a way, right? Because when you see yourself at a certain point, you work hard. And that is what manifestation is. Not sitting down waiting for it.
That's right.
It's imagining where you are and then working hard to get there. Because if you don't have a vision, what are you working for, right? And then to get out of your lowest point, I think one of the ways is just to remember what a good time you had. It wasn't a wasted time. It wasn't a stolen time. You had this time when you were a child, knitting with your mom and learning. Because I imagine you, that's how you got all this creativity, by watching her. And if you're a visual person, visual person are visual learners. So you see her knitting, you see her creating, we want to create yourself. And we usually we try to create what the people we love create. So you love the house, you loved going there, right? You love coming
Yes.
back from school to the smell. Maybe you don't remember, you did not remember the smells or whatever, but I'm pretty sure the moment you opened the door, you felt home, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and that's how you get back, by remembering the good times and living the painful present and inspiring for what is to come, right? Because if we live good moments in our life, we know they will come again because we
That's
experienced
right.
them before, right? And we
Yes.
know, and also when that I'm sure you were very terrified, like when you're that cold and you're like, what's I'm
Oh,
coming to work as a 19 years old. Oh my god, you were scared of that meeting at the airport the next day.
oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So
Yes.
I know that.
Yes. I was. I don't remember the ride home, but it must have been very tense.
Yep. It was like a
It was a long ride.
long ride.
I was probably just very quiet.
Yes, I had quiet rides with my dad too. My dad does not stay quiet. He makes sure that I know what's wrong.
Oh,
And I just be like,
yeah.
because I argue him too. And then I
Okay.
realized the more I argue, the more, he will talk. And, so I stayed quiet sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
So remembering that and remembering the good and the bad days is what help you to like, I feel it is like, here's how it is. It's like you sitting here and you just pick yourself up, right?
Yeah.
You're just like, Mitzi, you had this and this and that. Now you're here. And there's more to come, right? Even
Yes.
like losing someone is not easy, but it's life.
Yeah.
And
That's true.
one day someone will miss us too. So what we have is right now is we're living. We should be living. And I always tell myself that too. But my grandmother is like, what like would she want me? I remember in Sudan, when people pass away, people would dress white in my times, right?
Okay.
They would dress the white. Maybe if you watch Indian movies, you've seen the Muslim in India also dress white. They will dress the white traditional taupe Sudani women. And and then some days they'll be like, we'll be sad for 40 days or whatever. And in 40 days, they won't put perfume. They want wear colors. They want, because they do henna in their hands, right? My grandmother wouldn't do that. She wouldn't. When her uncle, like her siblings passed away, she tells people not to do that.
Oh.
She used to do that. She used to be like 3 days. And that's it.
Okay.
Everyone should.
Because she wanted to move on with her life. Is that why?
To move on, and I don't think also in Islam it's not allowed to live the sadness for so long.
Oh,
and to
okay.
show it. You're not just living it because you are inside of you. You're showing it in customs that would spread the sadness. Right?
Oh, okay.
So everyone, because sadness, you shouldn't be staying in a sad state for too long. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for the people around. It's not good anyways. So by practicing wearing like the color that's known for sadness, for some people it's black. For sure, it's my favorite color. For some people it's black. For us at that time, I think now things are changing to black, but it was white. And you'll see usually the wife of someone who passed away wearing white for so long, right?
Oh, interesting.
So she didn't like it. It felt like it against her teachings, and it just I've never asked her, but she would always say, don't do that, that person's not coming back, don't do that. She wouldn't like it. So her remembering that helped me to like live. Because every time I'm like, as if she's still here, and I'm like, I need to work hard on myself, I need to do this, I need to do that. And I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the way to honor the people who left us or passed away is by us living,
That's true.
right?
Yeah,
So
because I
that's,
always believe that they can see us,
mhm.
somehow, that they know what we're doing, and
Yeah.
in a way that we can't understand, but they know.
Yeah. I've heard, I don't, I'll tell you this after the podcast. I don't want to start a religious debate.
I can talk about anything.
No, no, I just don't want to start such things because I don't remember the resource to. Um okay, let's go back to your film.
Okay.
Uh anyways, let's go back to your film with your teenager. How did you decide what did you do to become a teacher and then you went into elementary? I feel
hmm
like you were already working on it, right? When you were a
hmm
teenager.
hmm Yes. I don't know why, but I knew that I was going to go to college for education to become
Okay.
a teacher all through high school. I don't
Mhm.
remember when I made that decision, but I think it was just a given. That's
Mm.
just what I was going to do. And so, yes, I went to a local, well, not too local, but we call them state schools,
Mm.
because when I went to college, my parents told me they would pay for a state school, which was going to be less tuition than going to an out of state school.
Mhm.
And it was much less expensive to go to school then. So I chose one of the state schools. There were not that many, and I applied to some of them, got into this one, and went to this school called Kutztown University for my undergraduate work in education.
Mm.
And yeah, it was a great experience, and I just transitioned right into working.
In
And my
elementary.
first job was, yeah, in elementary. Well, my first job, I was certified in elementary education, which was up to eighth grade at that time, and I knew that I was going to live in Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, so I applied to teach there. And it's actually kind of a funny story because I in order to be a teacher in the school district of Philadelphia, you had to take a test, and this was in the 80s.
Mm.
So you took this test, and depending on how you ranked on the test, you got to choose your school. So the highest score on the test got to choose first. Second person got to choose the second school, because in Philadelphia, as in most cities, there are going to be some really, really good schools and some really, really bad schools where you don't, where it might even be dangerous to be a teacher. And so I scored number 3 on the test, but I didn't get the letter that told me I scored number 3 until the second day of selections. So I
Oh.
missed the whole first day of selections because that was the
Mm.
postal service in Philadelphia, which is
Oh.
not the greatest. So I didn't get the letter until the second day.
Mm.
So I got to the process of selecting, and
Late.
already all of I was late even, and so I got to pick first when I got there because I was ranked highest that day. But the all of the quote good schools were gone, so I didn't know really one from the other anyway, because I didn't know Philadelphia very well at all. I'd only lived there for a short time.
Mm.
And so I picked a school, and and ended up as a teacher in the school district of Philadelphia, and it was very, very interesting and eye-opening. It was a very tough year, but taught
But
me
you learned a lot.
some great lessons. Yeah. Taught me some great lessons.
Do you want to share a lesson with us?
Um, sure. Let me think of one. Well, I think for me, I learned a lot about culture that I did not know about growing up. So I grew up in a very small town. It was not very diverse. It is now. It wasn't then. And I did not know many people from any other background than the small town that I grew up. I never traveled. My parents, we did not take vacations far away. We were very limited means. We did not travel. I'd never been out of the country or anything like this. Well,
Mm.
actually, no, I did go to Mexico when I was in high school. I'll say that. I was a school trip. I did go to Mexico. But besides that, I didn't have any exposure to anyone from another culture at all. And so I ended up in the school district of Philadelphia in a neighborhood that was a primarily African American neighborhood.
Mm.
I got the job because I was white. At that time, they had quotas, and you had to choose the job. They were looking for people of a certain ethnicity to take certain jobs because they were trying to make everything, equitable and stuff. It was the way they did it then. They don't do it that way now. It was an experiment they tried at the time, and I think they have other ways of doing that are much better now, because it didn't really work that well.
Yeah.
But so I ended up in this school where it was I was teaching children from a very, very different background from mine, and I didn't know this at all. I had no idea. And I remember going in there and having a mentor who kind of told me, like, straight up, she said, you don't know how to teach these kids because they're Black and you're white. And I was like, what are you talking about? I know how to teach. I had no idea. I was like, I didn't know what she was saying. I was like, what do you mean? And she was basically kind of warning me, like, and I actually had parents who didn't want me to be the teacher for their child. They took them out of the class. And specifically because of my race. And it was really interesting. Like, I never experienced anything like this before. And I learned so much. I mean, I thought I was just going to go in there and make a difference and be a great teacher. That was all I really thought. And I was going to care, but there was so much complexity to the situation I was walking into that I had no idea about. I was so naive. I was only 21.
Yeah.
And
very young age.
I was so naive. And I just remember learning so much about these children who, many of them grew up without parents in the household. They were living with an aunt. There was many kids living in a house in a lot of situations. There was a lot of violence. Very chaotic. The kids in the school were very out of control. Like, they just didn't know how to regulate themselves because they were in survival mode all the time. It was a very poor neighborhood. It was really eye-opening, and I learned a lot about that, about life from that situation, from that experience, that I'm so grateful for. And I actually got in touch with a couple of my former students a few years ago and found them on Facebook. And it was kind of interesting just to reconnect with them. It was really fun.
Yeah. Did they remember you?
They did.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And you stayed for a year there, or more?
I only stayed for a year. Yeah, I only stayed for a year. I'll be honest. I mean, it was tough. It was not. There was, I remember bringing the kids downstairs, and someone was in the school with a knife. The surrounding neighborhood was not really safe. Like, going back and forth to the car was not really safe. The kids couldn't leave. Like, the school doors were locked before they started locking the doors in schools. These doors were locked.
Yeah.
It was not really an environment that I felt safe in long term. I mean, the people who lived in the neighborhood didn't feel safe in the neighborhood. It was really unfortunate.
It reminded me of two movies, which I don't remember their name. I just remember the actors, because I'm not good with names. One of them is Robin Williams, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if... it's a very known one, and I feel ashamed.
Is it the Dead Poets Society?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so, but I remember watching it vaguely. But the other one, because I recently read a quote about why we write poetry, why art is important in because art is human feelings, and why we need poets and writers, and why we need to read and write, in opposed to all other positions like doctors and other things, occupations. Why art is important to our life. It was from that movie. But there's a second one in which a white teacher goes into a Black neighborhood.
Yeah.
And of course she changes everyone, because that's a movie.
Oh, I thought that was going to be me. It was not me. I'll tell you that it was not me. I wasn't going to make that
for the change to happen in such an environment. It needs a wise person, and you were not the
it
wise person because of your age
no,
and
I
experience
was
at
too
that
way
time.
too naive.
Yeah, I mean,
But the
right?
problems that exist in that environment are so complex. That we have as a society have not solved it,
No, we did
and
not.
we've never solved it. It
No.
is so complex.
Yeah.
And I
We're
could
not actively
certainly give.
trying to solve it.
That's exactly what I was
We're
going to say,
not. We
because I could
just
tell you,
keep talking.
some things to do,
Yeah.
but they don't
They don't
do
listen.
them.
No.
And why, I don't know, because it is obvious if you work in that kind of environment or live there. It's very sad. I'll remember that my kids Philadelphia is about 45 minutes from the Atlantic Ocean.
Mm,
And these kids had never been to the beach, never
mm,
seen the beach. And
mm,
they'd never been outside of their block.
mm.
Like, they didn't even know to go to Center City, Philadelphia. It was such an eye-opening experience because of that. It was really interesting and very sad.
Well, that's how we grow in life, right?
I know.
By these experiences, and most of these experiences are not comfortable. And if we didn't get out
Right.
of that comfortable zone to go, and I know this is a cliche, but it is how it is,
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
me, you doing your podcast and starting your whole life again from scratch. And I love what you said about that. I love that you said I'm starting it from scratch somehow with what knowledge and experience. You're not starting
Oh,
from
yeah.
nowhere. There's some foundation there, but you are doing things that are out of your comfort zone and you're not well skilled for. Well, you could have opted out for your retirement and chilling and traveling, but you chose something else, right? And me
Yeah.
doing this podcast with no whatsoever knowledge other than talking. Right?
That's all you need.
Exactly. It's not just all I need. You need some editing skills and some other stuff,
Well,
but you know what? That's what is life about. You could just sit down and I could sit down and say things and write things, or I can just start doing them. And
because you're a writer, writing is thinking. So you're a deep thinker.
yes. So I had to interact, and
Yeah.
I find that when I interact is when things I start creating, because I feel the emotions of people. Like you with your red dress. That I can't live that, because I keep seeing it. I'm such a visualized person. I keep
I
seeing
want to
you
see
getting
you in a red dress. I want to see
Ah,
you wear your red
okay.
dress.
We'll do that. Order one day. I'll wear it for you with
I
a
would
red
love to see that with the red hijab.
with red hijab. Oh my! Where am I supposed to find one? I'll
don't
figure.
know.
I
They
know
make
where.
really cool ones. You can find, yeah.
Yeah. I know where to find. I've seen one, and I said, I'm not wearing that. No, I
I think
do
that would
have
look
one.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we finished elementary school. How did you decide to go into teaching? Being a professor, did you just take extra steps in education? Why did you leave elementary behind?
Yes, I ended up getting my master's degree,
Mm,
and then I at the time when I decided to become a professor, I had little children, and I
mm,
wanted to do something that I could work part-time, which I
mm.
could do as an adjunct professor. So I just applied
Just
to the
yeah.
local college that was in my town and started working as a professor. And then I just went. It grew from there, and I just had various roles in a couple different
Department.
colleges and a university, and I enjoyed it.
I'm glad you did.
Really, yeah.
Yeah. Well, someone like you with such, your character is open-hearted. Is not someone who
Yeah.
comes with. Some people come into an environment thinking, I know it all. You're a
Oh,
learner.
yes, I'm always a learner.
And that's what you said. You are looking at education differently now through the world, right? But also
Yeah.
while you're doing that, you're learning from it and learning from the people you're meeting, right?
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate
Yeah.
goal.
It's kind of funny. I feel like what I'm doing right now is sort of like what I did when I had that first job in Philadelphia, because I'm meeting so many more people through the podcast and different communities that are just coming from all over the world
Yeah.
in a way that I've never experienced before. So I'm truly a part of a global community in a massive way because of the internet. And it's insane. It's so eye-opening and so beautiful. And just makes you realize how small you are and how much that you still don't know. I mean, I don't know. Am I allowed to swear on your podcast? I was going to
Yes.
say, I don't know shit. I really
Yeah.
do not know shit.
Yeah. That's what
And I like it that way.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't want to know everything. I want to always be excited about what there is to find out,
Yes, exactly. I was telling
about people.
who did 2 days ago I was with a guest, and I said I love not knowing. It gives me the
I know. I
motivation
get
to
that.
work harder to know. If
That's
I know
right.
everything, what is the point?
Yeah. And how cool is it when you find something out? And when you find something out that you didn't know that maybe makes you change your mind about something, is like, that's to me the most exciting thing. That is where you feel your brain like bursting out of your skull.
It's
when you
so
find
amazing.
out something like,
You're like,
when you change your mind.
yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, all this time I didn't know the truth, and now I do. And now I can believe this.
Yes, yes. It's my every time I'm like a child discovering, I don't know what, candies. Or like,
I know. It reminds me of when you like getting when I do a lot of yoga, and so it reminds me of like getting a yoga pose just right that you've never done before, and you finally get it and you get the way it feels, and it's like easy.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh my gosh, I could do that all along, but I just didn't know how. And now I know how. Exactly. And it's so cool.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
It is
always
amazing.
Remind me when my little brother, I remember him. I gave him ice cream for the first time. Have you seen those kids when they taste ice cream? It's like,
yes.
That's his reaction. And I will never forget. He was like grabbing for it. And I was just laughing. I was laughing. He loved it so much. And most kids do. And this is, I think, the moment of knowledge for me is when I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I keep reading about it, or like experiencing it, like writing about it. It's like when I realized, hey, I'm a writer, I sat down and wrote so much. So many ideas.
That's a wonderful metaphor.
Because I was imagining things, right? Like visualizing scenes and stuff. And I'm like, what if this happened? And I remember, and I've said this story, I was in a subway and I killed a character. And I didn't know it was killing a character. I just start like cheering. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a movie. Why am I not writing it, right? So I start every time I'm in somewhere, I'll just grab my notes and write what I had in my mind. And this is what I realized, that, oh my God, I'm a writer.
You are.
I am a writer. I just thought I'm daydreaming. I wasn't daydreaming.
You were writing.
I was writing.
You were writing.
I was writing.
That's right.
And it was
that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was.
That's beautiful.
It was. And finding things within yourself are one of the most amazing things ever.
Yep.
Let's go to the changes you made after your mother passed away.
Oh, okay. So the changes I made. Well, I mean, I'm still making changes. Yes. I think I just, I just started to get to know myself better. I had to get over a period of anger of her, leaving me so soon and missing her. She died very young. I'm actually the same age now that she was when she died. And so it's a difficult year for me, and I'm reliving a lot of this. I'm trying to figure out things and my feelings about everything. And it's sort of coming back up for me this year. So, I think it was just about like, I had to come home to myself. I didn't have my mother anymore. I had only myself. I was the mother. And I had to really step into that. It took me a long, long time, and I'm still doing it. So, it's just a gradual process.
Yeah, we talked about it. It doesn't end. I don't know if it will, because it didn't end for me. Right?
It doesn't end. It doesn't end.
I don't think it does. I don't think it does. Some things just remain to be there. Even if it's not just your mother, because I had a friend pass away, and she was, how old I was? I was 25. 25 or 26, and she was 1 year older. And I was just talking to her like a couple of months ago. So when I saw the post on Facebook, it was at night, and I didn't think it was her. I thought it's her grandmother. So I slept and I woke up, and then I realized, and there was so many posts, and I'm not on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
I prefer receiving news in a human way, you know?
Oh,
Because I'm
yeah.
seeing the post and everyone's talking about her passing. I did not believe it.
Oh,
I didn't
oh
believe it. Like,
no.
I had to like
Right.
call someone else, and that person were like, I'm not there yet, because she lives in Dubai. That person was in another
Oh,
city, and she was like, I am going there, but it's true. I don't know
oh,
what
wow.
happened, but it's true. And she was pregnant, so her and the baby.
Oh,
So
terrible.
imagine you're waiting for the baby pictures and this happens.
Oh,
So every time I remember, I pray for her and everything, but it doesn't go away. It doesn't go. It
yeah.
remains with you,
No.
and the feeling, the wound and everything. You just, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
the
It
survival
does.
guilt associated with it. And I think this is what you're living
Right.
this year, right?
Yeah.
As if you
Yeah. That's
survived
probably true.
something, but
Yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
not.
That's interesting too.
You didn't
You're making me think
survive.
about some good.
Yeah,
No, but me living beyond her
it's surviving.
age is surviving. And
Yeah,
wow, you're really making me think about some things here, Sabreen.
you're
That's true.
surviving, and you're like, why am I
Surviving.
surviving? Right? But
Yeah.
I don't think there should be guilt associated with it. But this is what
Yeah.
our hearts is telling us because of the
Right.
love connection we have for these people,
Right.
right?
Right. That's
And
true.
what we need is to just, maybe for me, I said sometimes I talk to myself about it. Like this morning, I didn't see my sister, and she was like, I was like, how long you've been here? And she was like, since you were talking to yourself. Another day,
Oh
I caught
my.
myself at work talking to myself. But you know what? It helps,
That's okay. That means you're a creative person.
right? It helps
Yes.
me to, like, even like when I prepare for podcasts, I talk to myself, right? So sometimes
Yeah.
sit down and talk to myself about it,
Yeah.
to
I think that's great.
rationalize with me, because
Right.
you need that, or you write it down in a poem or
Yeah.
whatever medium you have,
Right.
that's available for you to, like,
Yeah.
kind of like, I'll tell you an analogy. I don't know if it's an analogy, but it's something that, when I go through something, they either come out as writing passages or a poem or a story. And the
Okay.
moment I take it out of my chest is the moment I feel relieved.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel people might take it, and sometimes I dance in the morning. So some people might take it out as dancing or running or like knitting or like
Okay.
painting, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you have a medium. Maybe
Oh,
you
yeah.
know it, or maybe it's meditation.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't.
It's meditation, it's yoga, it's knitting, it's
Yeah,
walking, it's
it's a
being in
couple of them.
nature.
You're
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
all of that. I
it's
mean,
all of them.
anytime I do something that I want to do or that makes me connect to myself,
Yeah,
which is all those things.
yeah. I love running. I used to run before. I was sick for a couple of times, for a couple of years, and before that, I used to run. I'm getting back into running again. Someone told me running is so boring, and I was like, "What are you talking
Mm,
about?"
I used to run too. I haven't been running, but I did run for a while. I did
But you
run.
know what? When I run, my brain is running too. I'm going through
Yeah.
things, and I notice
Yeah.
when I get angry at it, I run faster, and sometimes I
Hmm.
slow, and I'm like, it's the
Yeah.
creative mind running, not my body. It helps the body.
Right. Right. That's true. Yeah. The
it
creativity.
it
That's so
helps the
true.
body, but it's not everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to dive into the relationship changes, because if you want to, of course, because I feel like you have so much wisdom in there. People like me might find it helpful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard you saying I wanted to be alone when
Okay.
you were
Hmm.
at that time with your
Hmm.
ex-husband or partner.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
want to start there. Yeah.
Yeah. I think losing my mom and then having to be responsible for everything all on my own really hit me.
Mm.
And, there were a lot of times when I just needed time to myself and I did not have it. And I just feel like I needed to, after that time, I needed to get in touch with her. My mom was from England and I didn't know any of her relatives because she had a very traumatic childhood. She was estranged from everyone, basically. And after she died, I found some letters from people who had been in contact with her. And I found a cousin of hers. And there wasn't really a lot of, I think the internet was not the same. Like there wasn't a lot of, you could find things, but not a lot of things. So I don't know how, but I managed to find this cousin in England and got in touch. And then I started to take trips to England and then that was when I really got, and I was still married, but that was when I really got the feeling that I really needed to find out who I was through finding out who my mom was. And I could only do that alone. And, I think that's where that originated. I just needed to be able to be free to explore this alone. And I, for whatever reason, I felt that I had to be on my own to do that. I can't really explain,
I
why.
understand you.
Yeah. Okay.
I understand you because you said I wanted to be free, but in some relationship, part of it being good is the freedom in it, that you already feel free in it.
Yeah.
So if not,
but there was no freedom. Yeah, because I was just doing so much and responsible for so much. I think that's why.
But when you look at I don't know, I've never been married. So correct me if I'm wrong. I just looking at my parents' marriage and everyone's marriage around me. My parents believe they've separated when I was a child, but other relationships I've seen, when someone is responsible for so much, I don't think a person in a relationship should be responsible for so much or have that burden, right? Because the burden is not. It should be shared, even if you're doing so much physically, responsible for so much in physical world. In your heart, you won't feel it. If there's I don't want to judge, but if there's a feeling that someone got your back.
Yeah. And I think for me, it wasn't that my husband at the time didn't have my back. It wasn't that.
Okay.
But it was the person who loved me more than I loved myself was gone. And I don't think that I had enough self-worth and confidence in myself without her love to be able to handle it all and handling things for everyone else, for 3 children, for a husband. I just couldn't do it. And,
your
I had
anchor
to,
in the world is not there yet. It's not there anymore.
Yeah. It was all about my grief. It was really all about my grief. And probably I was experiencing depression at the time.
Yeah.
And I just, my way of my body, in order to heal that, needed to do that on its own. It needed to do it. And I couldn't do it under the circumstances I was living in for whatever reason. But yeah, I know it's very sad. It's complex, but that's what happens. People are complex, right?
That's the beauty of life.
I know, it really is.
Because the complexity is what are they? They're details. And we just need to unfold them. Right? And I just felt like, your anchor, the things that was anchoring you to your marriage, your children and husband was not there anymore, because you said something really important. You felt like she's the person who loved you more than you loved yourself. And at that time, you didn't, when your mom was there, you didn't feel the need to love yourself more.
Right. I didn't have to.
You didn't have
her.
Yeah, you had her. That's why she was the anchor, right?
Yeah.
And now she's not there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you lost that. You lost that stability, that foundation, that anchor.
Right. Yeah.
The person.
And it threw me into a tailspin at the time.
It was
and I couldn't
chaos.
Yeah. Yeah. But now I understand it now.
Looking back at it, you understand it. Do you have any other feelings other than understanding?
a good question. I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I think I'm coming to a place in my life where uh, I'm able to remember things without feeling bad or without having those feelings. So I feel like that's the sign of progress. Like when you can go back and not. So that's, I guess maybe that's the answer. It's like, no, I don't really have any other feelings.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing.
Yes. I was getting you there because did you think about it? Did you think that you were not feeling all these feelings again when you think about that time?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I don't feel them the same way at all. No, because
so
I feel much more.
Acknowledging that is important.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've acknowledged this before, but I wanted to hear it from you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I think you're right. You definitely made me think about some things in a new way tonight, for sure.
Great. I'm happy.
Yeah.
The narrative.
It's been so good.
Yes.
It's been so good.
Yes. I have something to say here. How did I didn't ask how many kids you have? But
I have 3.
You have 3. You said 3, but like boys, girls.
Oh, I have my son. I have a son who is 27, a daughter who is 25, and a daughter who is 22.
Great. 2 daughters.
Yes.
How did they feel during that period of time? Were you in touch with their feelings?
I don't think they were. My youngest was a baby when my mother died, so she didn't know her.
Oh, you said they were under 5, right?
Yeah. Okay. My son was the most affected. They were very close, and he did have a lot of issues after she died. He had a lot. It affected our whole family very deeply because we were close to my mom. Okay. But the little ones, the girls were pretty little. Yes, they were. My parents were a part of our daily lives. Like they would spend a lot of time with the kids and stuff. So yeah, it was a very hard time. Yeah,
well, I'm happy.
It was a very hard time.
Do you still have the connections with the people in England?
I do. Yes, I do. And I've made more new connections. So I do have a lot of family in England, and I've been over there to visit them several times, and I will continue. I'm getting the bug to go back. So I'll probably want to travel, but I haven't traveled in a few years. So maybe coming up soon.
What did you accomplish by meeting the people in England?
I got to understand my mom. I got to see how she grew up and like in the kind of the culture that she grew up, because it is definitely different than the American culture.
Of course. And
got to see the landscape, like it's very beautiful where she grew up. Also, I got to see the poverty. Like there's a lot of contrast in England. There's like, there's the estates we think of, and then there's also very, very poor people. So, but there's a lot of beauty, the meadows and the grasses and the trees and the sheep and like this is very beautiful. It's a lot of very beautiful countryside. So I got to see all that, and I'm happy, and I love it. Yeah, it's a part of me. It's the motherland.
It's the motherland. I love
It's the motherland.
I love this. And you get to like know the family too, right? Which is a great thing. Yeah, you made new connections. I love new connections.
Me too.
Not good with family connections. If any family of me is watching, distant family, just because I traveled a lot, and when going back, everyone asked me about their name. And of course, there are many of them, right? And I was young, so that question really bothered me because they make me guess, and I'm like, I don't know who you are. Yeah, I met you 5 years ago.
That's so funny. Yeah. No, I'm definitely. I keep in touch with them, and it's very nice to have relatives now that I can, visit and have contact with.
I can only imagine. Okay. So I am going to guess that since I love this film of yours, which is like the opening scene, you are in that amazing estate, and I'm imagining yourself at your lowest estate, want to achieve that, and then we see the journey of you remembering your childhood, the beautiful moments, and then coming to your present and getting yourself out of there, going to England, meeting the people, everything you're doing. I'm going to ask you, what do you think a theme in your film?
Hmm. I think my theme is empowerment,
Empowering.
discovering myself and my confidence in my own power. And, maybe my job is to become the person that my mother couldn't become,
Hmm.
to be healed for the family, to heal those generational wounds.
Yeah, generational trauma.
Yeah.
You think you carried the trauma with you from her,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
you wanted to break the cycle, right?
Yep.
Great. Um, what is a movie name for you?
Oh, boy. My movie name is probably Perfectly Imperfect.
Oh, why did you choose that?
Because I embrace my imperfection.
Okay.
I don't want to be perfect. I want to always have things I have to learn. I never want to stop learning the lessons of life.
mm.
And
Don't you
hopefully
think
they
that?
won't be hard, but
No, they might be hard at the beginning, but then you enjoy
yeah.
it. Don't you
But
think the
I just, like
imperfection?
we said,
Yeah,
being a student, like you always want to keep learning.
yeah. I love learning. I love being a student. I love asking stupid questions. Don't you think imperfection is what makes us the personality we have right now? Because your imperfection in this whole story or your flow was not to love yourself because you already had the love, the person who
Yeah.
loved you more.
Yeah.
But this is
Yeah.
sparked a whole journey, right?
Yeah.
And while
Yeah.
you probably healed from that, it just made you the person you are,
Yeah.
right? So I
That's
don't
true.
think we ever fix the imperfections. We just I don't know what is the term. They remain within us, but in a
Yeah.
healing way.
Yeah.
Like a beautiful scar.
Yeah. It's like that Japanese art of, I think it's kintsugi,
Yes,
where they
with
use
the
the
gold.
gold
Yes.
to repair the cracks.
Yes.
That's what I feel like.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's how I feel about a couple of surgeries, and that's how I see them. And I wrote about it.
Yeah.
I say that I see river of gold
Yeah.
within my
Yeah.
body, and I remember when I went out of a couple of months after the surgery, I was trying to lose weight, and I had a moment in front of the mirror looking at and they're in my belly, and I said. And I was thinking that finally I'm getting like flat one. And I told myself,
Oh,
why would I care? Look at this body. Look what like, it survived. Why would I care?
yeah.
Why would I care if
Yep.
this scar is getting bigger?
That's
And
right.
from that on, it changed how I look at my body, but it also,
Hmm.
for you, the analogies for you, it changed the way you look at the imperfection you had in your
That's right.
soul
Yeah. I couldn't
because
be
they're
who I
beautiful
am today
without
without
it.
all of the different pieces of me. And so I have to love them
I love
because
them
they
too.
brought me here,
Yeah, and I
Thank
got to
you.
listen to this amazing story, and everyone else is listening. So I am listened already. I'm going to thank
Well,
you. I am
thank you.
so honored that I've been part of the journey because I know the journey is continuing. It's not stopping
Yes.
here. And I hope
No.
that I'll see you probably, I don't know, a year or two from now. You and
Yeah,
I will be.
I wonder where I'll be. I wonder what I'll look like. I wonder if
Exactly.
I'll be wearing the red dress.
Yes, both you and I with the red scarf.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
maybe we'll do it at the beach house or somewhere with
I
much
would love
more
that.
equipment, and we'll be talking ha 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 and giggling. Who knows?
That's
Who
right.
knows,
That
right?
would be so fun. I
That would
love
be
that.
the best
Oh, what a
thing.
great idea. Okay.
Great
Very
idea.
good.
So let's
Very
meet
good.
again in a
Okay.
couple of years and talk
Let's
in
do it.
red dresses.
Let's do it.
Let's
I
do
love it.
it.
I love it.
So thank you
All
so
right.
much. Thank you
Thank
for everyone who's
you.
listening and watching the Lemon Narrative with Sabreen. And thank you, Mitzi, for being here. And I'll see you the next time with an amazing guest again.
Thank you.